Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and on this episode we are taking a trip to Tatooine. That's right, we're headed to the Star Wars universe because today we're taking a look at Diamond Select's latest statue of Fennec Shand. Portrayed by Ming-Na Wen in The Mandolorian and the Book of Boba Fett, this statue here from Diamond Select is a 1/6 scale mini bust made out of resin, limited edition of only 3,000 pieces. We got one today. We're going to take a look and let you know if it's worth adding to your collection or not. Diamond does really excellent stuff when it comes to the Star Wars line. We've looked at a lot of other Star Wars resin pieces in the last year or so, and they've all been very good. And I don't really expect this one to be any different here. In fact, this one actually seems like it's going to be a little bit more special for a character that will probably not really have a ton of merchandise long term. We're going to get into that in a few moments, but first I just want to talk about this box real quick here. And to be quite honest, it's not the most interesting box, let's be real. Most of the resin pieces from Diamond Select in the Star Wars line are very simple boxes. They're basically just cubes or rectangles with, for the most part, a very glossy black and then a few acute gray triangles on the sides to help kind of add some dynamism to it. But they're really not much. It's not really about the packaging. They're very much about emphasizing the statue that's inside it. And in the case of Fennec over here, we have a great big image of Fennec on the front, and then when we turn it to the sides, we see something a little bit different here, which I haven't mentioned to you guys yet, but this Fennec actually has removable heads. So we're going to get two different heads here, right? On this side, you're seeing the head with the helmet on, and then back in the front, we're seeing her with the helmet off. And likewise, on this side, you get to see it again. So a little bit of a sneak preview of what you're going to be getting once you open this thing up. And as for the back of the box here, we have a very large portrait of Fennec. Again, this is a portrait of the statue, but it looks really nice here. It gives you a great close-up look at what this thing's going to look like once she's out of all of her styrofoam containers. And we also get a very short bio. When I say short, I mean it's barely 2 sentences here. It's like the most scant thing possible. There's barely any information there. I don't really know how much you honestly need about this, but it's kind of disappointing to see just that little there. We also get some other information about the production of the statue, how it was made by Gentle Giant, so on and so forth. And it also lets us know that this is, as I mentioned, limited to 3,000 pieces and includes the interchangeable heads. Unlike other pieces from Diamond, the resin stuff does not include any credits to the sculptor, so we don't know who made this, so we don't know who to either praise for it being great or who to blame for it being terrible. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and find out which one of those two it's going to be, and let's open up this Fennec Shand and take a closer look at her from all angles. Alright, and here is our Fennec Shand 1/6 scale mini bust. You might notice, well, there's a few things missing here, so yeah, let's go ahead and start remedying those things piece by piece. And I think let's go ahead and start that by bringing in her modified MK sniper rifle. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just take this body out of the shot for a moment, just so you guys can get a better look at the rifle itself in all of its glory, because it's a really cool piece. This is like the kind of thing I'd love to have as a toy for like a actual 12-inch figure. It looks so cool like this. And just a little point here. So the scope, I actually thought the scope came off this gun. That's because, unfortunately, the piece that I got, for the first time, one of the rare times I should add, really, because I only think it's been like 2 or 3 times at most since I've been reviewing Diamond products, is that the scope actually fell off in shipping. So I was able to actually super glue it with no issues. You can see that here. It's, you know, super glued back in place, exactly where it should have been. So it just kind of fell off, I guess, in transit, but otherwise it's fine, it's in there, and it's really nice. It's got some really nice different shades of gunmetal on this. It is, in fact, very much 3 tones here. We've got a very nice kind of brighter silver for some of these accents. The barrel and the majority of the gun is this real nice gunmetal gray, and then there are some black in the stock and a little bit in the scope as well. So nice variety of colors and tones and shininess. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters with the sniper rifle, is how shiny it is. And just so you guys can see how tall this sniper rifle is in comparison to the bust, it's pretty darn big. It's an enormous rifle. And yeah, so it's shipped like this sort of separately because, well, otherwise this thing's going to just snap off. You'll see in a minute, but just so you guys can tell here, it will attach by magnets to her right arm over here. So all you gotta do is just see this magnet here in her forearm, just pop your gun over there, and really the magnet's going to do most of the work, so it should just really kind of slide into place once it's in the correct spot. And yeah, there it is. So just like that, her sniper rifle is exactly where it should be. That's how it's going to look. So that's cool, but we're still missing some pieces here. And, well, we're missing a head for our Fennec, aren't we? So, as I mentioned at the start of this video, Fennec Shand comes with 2 heads. So let's start with her first head over here. That's going to be this helmeted one over here. She's going to be looking off to this direction. Snaps right into place thanks to, again, more magnets. So let's do our first rotation just to give you guys a little bit of a glimpse of how this is going to look from all the different angles here. And it's already really cool looking. Now, obviously, Fennec Shan's helmet's not the most exciting here, but it's kind of cool to have it. And even then, it actually is a pretty cool piece of sculpture. As far as some artistry goes, we'll zoom in on that in a second or two here. But now I can finally give you guys a whole rotation how this thing is going to look. And you can see there's a lot of wonderful texture, a lot of real great sculpting detail in this mini bust. There's a lot to dig into, and you know, normally I start with the likeness, but since there isn't really much I want to talk about here, I guess I will just talk about the helmet a little bit. So let's take a closer look at that. So the interesting thing about this particular piece now is that you actually can see a little bit of Ming-Na's eyes kind of peeking out the top there, this little like sliver of an opening. So that's really nice. But yeah, let's go a little more in detail into this head here, and especially the helmet. So yeah, you're not gonna get much of a likeness. And for the most part, the helmet really does kind of hide a lot of her face underneath it. This, especially this piece here, it's just like so flat and shiny, but it is a very nice kind of shine. It does get more interesting though from the sides. You can see a lot more of that real kind of like classic Star Wars look to it. Like when I think of Star Wars technology, this is very much the sort of look that I start thinking about. You know, you can like all these little liney things over here that really serve no purpose as far as I know. I'm sure Star Wars nerds who know more about this stuff can tell me something or two. If it was Star Trek, I'd be able to let you know right away. But as far as the design aesthetic, you know, things like this sort of shape is in so many different Star Wars things. I mean, the helmet in some ways even kind of reminds me a little bit of like some of the helmets you'd see on Endor in Return of the Jedi. So they're really cool. And you guys can see just too a lot of like nice little paint detail to help this kind of look a little more weathered. Let me tilt this for you guys, especially on the top of the dome. You can really just see like some great weathering detail on it. Different shades of gray and silver in there to make it look really, really kind of beat up. So, you know, I appreciate those nice little touches of detail in there because it helps add a lot to the story of this piece. So, and by the way, you'll notice I have lifted her off the ground. Her sniper rifle is still holding, her head is still holding. I wouldn't like shake it and start playing around with it, but you know, at least it's solid. You can now see how solid it is. So the helmet head is really cool, but let's keep going because there's more to talk about here. And the next real big important thing to talk about is the other head sculpt that this Fennec Shan comes with. This one is the unhelmeted head of Ming-Na. Now you want to talk about some detail, here we go. So this is pretty good. I think like a lot of the resin pieces you'll get, frankly, one angle tends to look better than other angles. You know, from certain angles it's not going to look like the character. I think with this one here, looking at it through the camera, it's like we're close, but we're not quite there. Her nose looks a little too wide. Her lips are a little too pursed. So it's close. It's very close. Actually, from this profile, it actually looks really nice. But when we see it head on, something's a little bit off still. 3/4 profile, though, it's looking pretty good. So, you know, I'd give this one a grade. I'd probably be looking at like a 6.5 to a 7 out of 10 on the head sculpt here. It's not bad. It's got some good details, but it is missing a few things that like really kind of tie it together and make it kind of shout that it's actually who it's meant to be. Because, you know, Ming-Na has a certain specific look, and I don't quite know if they got it in her face here. I will say the hair is pretty cool, though. The hair has got some nice details in there. I like all the different sort of crisscrosses with different red shapes that you can see right here in her braids. Very nice detail. I also really dig the bun she's got working on the back over here. Just a better look at that. That's some fun detail. Like that's some real Emmy Award-winning hair design right there, Star Wars folks. That is gorgeous looking. Really cool. I like that the braids kind of wrap around and they do sort of like intermingle a little bit with the sniper scope. By the way, they are very close to the sniper rifle, and that's why I want to make sure you get her head positioned in the right way. Otherwise, you know, you could end up damaging it by accident. But no, it is actually a perfect fit, and we'll do a little pan right now. You guys can see what I'm talking about. So the hair does kind of like just fall right next to the scope, but it's safe over there. You don't really have to worry too much. And you know, while I'm doing this, let's start talking a little more about the body. And yes, that's the base. We'll come back to that base. But let's start talking a little more about the body here. And there's some great details in this half-scale bust here. So let me zoom out a little bit just for a quick second here, get you a little bit more of her in frame. And yeah, I gotta really say, like, I'm actually impressed by how much texture they've squeezed into this piece, how many different textural designs there are. So, you know, we start talking about this jacket, and especially in the collar section, this is like really cool. It's this really kind of very fine detail. It's like probably one of the finest textural details I've seen in a Star Wars piece I've looked at from Diamond. Like, this is very subtle. There's a lot of it. It's such a small, tiny design, but it's really wowing me. And that same look is also in her sleeves. You can kind of see that a little bit here. We'll get a better look at those sleeves, but yeah, you can see that exact same look and fabric is right over here. Actually, very similar fabric. It's not quite the same. Actually, yeah. I'm just realizing now this sleeve design is actually different. It's actually a different texture. It's more like circle patterns. as opposed to some like the crosshatch pattern that's in her collar. That's really cool, and that looks really great. I mean, I don't know how it's gonna look on camera for you guys, but for me in person, that looks really stunning. Nice job there. Now, in fact, actually, if I do rotate her, and so you guys can see her back, you'll see a little bit more of that texture I'm talking about, because it goes all the way onto her shoulder area here. A really fine little detail. And I'm also digging the way the fabric is kind of clinging to her body, or partially clinging, because there's actually a little bit of space under here. So this is kind of like, almost like a half poncho kind of thing, we'll call it. I also really like what's going on here as we get towards the lower body, with all these patterns that are going on down here. Like, that's worthy of a zoom, I would say, if I've ever seen a zoom. That looks really sharp, very cool. Lots of different repeating geometric patterns on this outfit. Makes it very interesting to look at, and it's doing a lot for the light and shadow of this character and how it's like really playing the environment that she's in right now, which for the most part is actually just a black backdrop that I've got her in. So it's kind of the perfect way to really see all the little details and the many nooks and crannies of our Fennec Shand over here. As we kind of keep rotating, you'll see like the front of her outfit is just kind of this like smooth black, dark blue. Actually, it's kind of like a dark bluish black outfit color. We kind of scroll down a little bit again, you'll see more of what I'm talking about in the waist area. Now the base, I guess we'll talk about that right now real quick too. The base is like all the bases you get in any of these Star Wars pieces. It's not the most exciting. It's a literal hockey puck. I mean, there's nothing on it, there's no design, but you will know by now that this is the same hockey puck base that you're going to see in really any Star Wars piece from Diamond. So at the very least, all your pieces are going to be uniform. Now, her hands over here don't come off, so it's a little bit hard to see, but she got some cool stuff on her belt on this side. Otherwise, not much going on the belt. She's not like the most detailed character as far as belts go. She does have a sort of like badge thing hanging out on top here. You can see like right on her chest by her hair. So some more little bits and pieces there, some Star Wars baubles. I don't really know what else to call them. But yeah, let's actually take a little bit better look at this arm now too, since I mentioned that. So her gloves are really nice. They're very shiny, and they look really great just holding that sniper rifle here. So that's a better look at her hand. You can see some of the really nice sculpting on her hands there and fingers. So it really does look like she's gripping this rifle, which is very nice. Some more detail of that wonderful looking piece right here. So her gloves are like really shiny, nice kind of material that makes it look like it's almost leather, even though this is all resin after all. But they've done a really great job here, like with all the different textures, to make it look like so many different things. And that's, to me, one of the more impressive bits about this piece here. You know, while the likeness might not be a perfect 10 or anywhere close to being a perfect 10, there's so many other really nice elements about it that make it look very lifelike. So, you know, as far as like the head goes, maybe this is a piece that actually works better without her likeness on it. I don't know. Hard to say, but for my money, it's pretty darn solid as is. And, you know, from a distance, I think the head actually looks a lot better. You know, for me looking at it, like, you know, my face this close to it, it's a little, maybe not quite there, but from a distance, I could definitely see this looking really nice. Now, we should mention, last but not least, this is a limited edition piece, and that number for the statue is going to be on the bottom over here, so you can see my number right there. Plop Fennec right back down here. And it also comes with a sort of like trading card certificate of authenticity, which has an image of the statue, and it has the exact same number right there on it too. So it's also on the box. You have 3 different ways to make sure that you know it's a limited edition piece. So let's go ahead now and do a final rotation here as I give you guys my last thoughts on this piece. And, you know, one thing I didn't talk about is the pose, really, and that's because these mini busts, there's really only the upper body to talk about, so the poses don't tend to be like super amazingly intricate or complex to discuss. It's very much just kind of about presenting fabric, texture, realism, and that kind of thing, more so than dynamism here. And so this is not like the most static pose either, don't get me wrong. There actually is a pretty good amount of energy in this piece compared to a lot of other busts we've looked at, where quite often the arms are just doing nothing, or they're like, you know, doing very little. In this case, I think this is actually a pretty nice pose, and especially with the different heads, you have some options for how you want to actually pose this character, how she's going to look. So I think pose-wise it's good, and as a statue it's really cool too. I mean, it really is emphasizing the many different designs that is on this outfit, on the helmet as well if you want to use that head too. It really emphasizes the gun and the different metals and shine of that piece. So it's actually a very nice statue overall. I mean, I will say again, the likeness might not be my favorite out of the many Star Wars pieces I've looked at from Diamond. It could definitely use a little bit more work, but with the helmeted head on, it's really not even noticeable because, yeah, the helmet's on. And really, other than that, it's a pretty strong piece, to be completely honest. And if you have other pieces from the Book of Boba Fett or from the Mandalorian, it's going to fit in very nicely there. So if you'd like to pick up this Fennec Shand statue for yourself, go ahead and check out my affiliate links in the description of this video below. You'll find a few different places you can pick her up, and if you use those affiliate links, it helps out this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. So that's the Diamond Select Gentle Giant Star Wars Fennec Shand 1/6 scale mini bust. Let me know if you think this statue is worth collecting a bounty on to add it to your collection, or if it's not. And until next time, I'm Matthew, this has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.